You are live. Yeah, it is June 9th, 2026. This is part two of our broadcast. Let me turn on the music. We're trying to understand what anarchy is today. Okay, look at that logo. And I'm going to invite someone on. Hold on. Let's see. Let me drop this. Live. There you go. What's up, man? Do you hear me? You hear me? I have you on, yeah? Bring me in from backstage. Oh, hold on. I think you have to unmute, no? You're in studio.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I use your name?
KD.
All right, KD. All right, yeah, that works. All right, so KD's in the house. So he's no longer my one viewer. So, I mean, honestly, bro, let's just jump into it, right? We want to get into anarchy. So let me phrase this. Let me start on anarchy, right? Because you're an expert on anarchy, right?
No.
I mean, all right, you know what I'm saying.
Fan.
You're a fan. You're a fan of anarchy, right? And let's just get into it, right? So what does this logo mean to me? This logo means chaos, right? It looks like a big X, right? It's a big A, which represents anarchy over a circle. It looks chaotic to me. So I think anybody that uses the word anarchy associates the word with chaos. Now, do you see a problem with that? It is the wrong definition, right? And we're going to get into the definition in a second, but do you see a problem with that? The misconception?
Yes. Because it's a misconception.
Because it's a misconception. But understanding why it's a misconception, do you see a problem with that? Like, do you see that as irrational, I guess?
No, it's rational because it's been made to be thought of that way by propaganda. So it's understandable why people believe that, because that's what they've been told.
Correct. So that's what I'm saying. So like, I think the jumping off point is to say that I guess we have to be, I don't want to overuse this word, but like, I guess we have to be a little bit compassionate. We have to be a little understanding to say that the normal person is going to look at an emblem like this and just say, okay, clearly that person is anti-establishment, right? If you see the V for Vendetta mask, right? I don't know if there's an actual name for that, right? But when you see that V for Vendetta mask, right, which promotes anarchy, right? It's like, to me, that means chaos. That means that this person is like, not only like, they're a revolutionary, or they are just against government order. And that's as far as it goes, because most people are not educated on what anarchy is, and I actually wasn't either, right? So but I think a good starting off point is to say that I understand why most people, why most people would see that this logo, that this logo represents, something chaotic, something maybe even evil. But understanding why the misconception exists, I think, is like the first domino that has to fall in the argument. Would you agree?
Yeah, and just a quick side point: the guy who wrote V for Vendetta is an anarchist,
I'm sure. Okay,
Alan Moore,
what's his
and the
name?
mask is called Alan Moore. The
Uh-huh.
comic, not the movie.
Uh-huh.
The movie's not really similar to the comic. And the mask is called Guy Fawkes mask.
Guy Fawkes mask?
Fawkes, Fawkes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Guy Fawkes mask. Yeah, which is this famous mask, right? Which is just scary, right? If you wore this out in public, that's fucking scary. And that's why I think anything associated with anarchy is somewhat opposed, right? If anybody's holding up this logo, this anarchy logo, you see my screen, right? Yeah, if anybody looks up this logo and sees this logo or sees this mask, they're going to say, okay, stay away from that person. That's how big the misconception is. But I'm just saying, first we recognize that there's a misconception. Second, we understand why and how there is a misconception. Third, we're saying, okay, that makes sense. It makes sense that there's a misconception. And then I think, and it's not, this isn't an alcoholic 12-step process or whatever, but I'm just trying to, build upon this to now get into the definition. So you agree with me so far, right? Like,
about the misinterpretation, yeah.
Yeah, you're following me, right? I'm just trying to create some logic here, right? So now let's get into the definition, and you tell me if you agree with this, because this is just a basic Google search, which is: anarchy fundamentally refers to a society or a group that exists without government, rulers, or formal authority. Do you agree with that definition?
I think that's fair, yeah, but it can be expanded on.
Okay, how would you expand it?
Well, I'm going to take from an essay I read by another YouTuber called Anarch and Daniel Varian. And I'm quoting this from his essay. Just understand that this usage of anarchy does not mean chaos or lack of organization, as you have likely been told. Anarchy is both individual and collective freedom to develop our full creative capacities, constituted through equality of structural power and the internal principle of human solidarity. Such a society is not then a state of unrest, but a condition of existence in which humanity can determine for themselves what sort of future they wish to inhabit, free of direction by some dominator class, instead of carried forth by their own motivated wills. If this society has been explained to you as a state of chaos, understand only that your rulers wish you to think of a society without domination, a society in which you are controlled, as chaos. So that goes into the definition of anarchy, not anarchism.
Now,
and
well,
I'm sharing to that essay.
So let me. So the first part, right? You're saying that it isn't about this idea of like social disorder, right? But when you look this up, when you actually look up the definition here, there are two meanings, right? So it depends on the context. The term can carry two main definitions. So here's part of the misconception with anarchy, which is social disorder in everyday use. It often describes a state of lawlessness, chaos, or political disorder. So that's one definition. The other definition is the political philosophy one, which is in social theory, anarchism. It refers to a cooperative, stateless society based on voluntary association, mutual aid, and self-governance. So you eliminate.
Those are the.
Okay, so then when you look at the core concepts, right? So there you go. There's the misconception.
And sorry, just one other thing, like anarchy, like the actual, what is it called, etymology of the word is like from hierarchy, and anarchy means no hierarchy. Right?
No leader, without a leader. Anarchia. Yeah, I'm seeing
Yeah.
the Greek. Yeah, the Greek etymology here. Okay, that's interesting. So, okay, now the core concepts of political anarchy, right, are the absence of a coercive hierarchy. Coercive meaning that it's essentially embedded or entrenched and pushed upon us, right? So it is defined by the removal of centralized authority, whether that be the state, institutional religion, or capitalist class systems. So why don't we do an exercise here? I'm going to eliminate the president out of the equation of our hierarchy. How would we work without a president? Or am I thinking about that the wrong? I'm just trying to experiment here and just trying to. I'm trying to do two
No, that
things.
makes
One
sense.
thing, yeah, I'm trying to like poke holes in the argument, and at the same time, I'm also trying to see like, okay, how would this actually work? So let's just remove the president and keep everything else, the same.
I also just want to clarify two things. Anarchy is like an end state, like a goal.
Hmm.
Anarchism is the socio-political philosophy or socio-political ideology. So anarchy is like an end goal of this, kind of like communism. You want to reach like this stateless, classless, moneyless society, and anarchy is like that as well. It's like some
Uh,
end goal. Anarchism is the ideology, which I can give a definition for that too, which is again quoting from this essay, which you can share the link if you want. It's in the
mhm.
backstage. Anarchism is the opposition to all hierarchical power structures, the framework for locating and understanding them, and the method by which we might dismantle and replace those hierarchical power structures with a horizontal society of free association, controlled together by the people, which we call anarchy. So it's a mode of analysis. Um, yeah, so it's three things: a mode of analysis, um, an end goal, and the way you believe we can reach the end goal. So a method of reaching that.
Mhm.
So sorry, a mode of analysis, a method of struggle, and a socio-political goal. So it's those three things. And that's similar to what like an ideology is, like how you think the universe is and works, and then where do you believe you want to go, or a political philosophy or ideology, like like where do you think society should go, like what should be the end state or your goal, and how do you believe we can go from where we are now
Mhm.
to where you want to go. So a current analysis of the state we're in, where do you believe we should be going, and how do you propose we get there?
Okay. Well, and that's the definition of
Like
anarchy.
anarchism or like a political ideology as well, I would say.
Okay.
And I'm not an expert, so I might be wrong on a lot of this,
No,
but
that's
that's my
okay.
current understanding.
We're learning, right? We're learning about it. So I think it's fairly straightforward to say. All right. So what? Describe what you think would be a United States presidentless society.
Yeah, so the United States government is a hierarchy, and imagine you're just taking off the top leader, you're just flattening the hierarchy a little bit, right?
Mhm. So I would think that most anarchists would be happy with that and would say that that's a big step in progression, right?
I don't know if it's the biggest step, but it's a slightly better step, I guess. Like imagine, like you can say the mayor, right? Why do we have to have one mayor? Why can't that? Why can't the city council distribute power and make decisions? Why is there a
Mhm.
strongman mayor?
Why is there a mayor?
Yeah, and why does so much power rest in one person?
Uh-huh.
Like nobody really questions that. Like, why is there a king?
Correct. Well, see, so this is how the United States Constitution is supposed to work, right? Because you're never gonna you're not really supposed to see a kingship, a hierarchy of a kingship, right? Because the hierarchy of a monarchy is hierarchy, right? Let me just look that up really quick. But the hierarchy of a monarchy is top down, right? Just straight up top down. Um, it's the king and his subjects, essentially, right? So,
I mean, all of this is top down. The United States government is top down as well.
The United States government is top down, but technically it's not supposed to work that way, right? This is really top down leadership, right? Up down until the you know
But
the the
yeah,
subject.
I mean, the government is really still top down. I mean, all governments are top down. Like
No,
nobody's listening.
all
No,
governments are, right? But what I'm saying is like so when I so a monarchy is truly top down.
they're
A
all top
you
down. This is just more. It has been
this,
flattened. It's super
this should be
pyramidal.
more flat. Yeah, because this has more checks and balances.
This is slightly, yeah, but it's still top down. It's like the rules are created at the top and they filter down to the subjects, which is us,
Correct.
the
It's the
citizens.
same way. But I think what we have more in our country right now, I don't really visualize our system today, our constitution. I don't really visualize it in this with these, three main branches anymore. Because everything's really coming out of the White House, and they are essentially defying all court orders that they don't agree with. So it's I think our current political system is much more like the kingship today.
In certain regards, yeah, but there's still like state power, there's still state hierarchy, there's
Mhm.
still Congress, writing and passing their own laws that sometimes Trump will approve. There's some stuff that the Supreme Court still, you know,
Mhm.
actually the Supreme Court has a lot of power, right? Still,
Yeah,
even
but
overriding Trump in certain cases.
then they're pushing back, which is great because it's just good to see that he doesn't have um just complete and absolute power over governing the United States. But let's jump into so if you did remove the president, I actually don't think it would be much of a problem because I think one of the main problems that we have here in the United States is that we've we've taken to liking the representative aspect of our government so much so that the likability aspect or the charisma of a certain candidate, the the optics of that candidate, how they present themselves has actually moved to the fore much more than the actual policy. So how the person conducts themselves far supersedes the actual policy making, and I believe that for a couple of reasons. I believe that it is a rather remote process in which we elect our leadership is number one. Number two, I believe that most people don't really have a deep embedded belief in our political structure, meaning that if you elect someone, for instance, you may or may not get the policies that they run for in their campaign. So there's a lot of like disillusion and I would say just overall disenfranchisement with the idea that we actually affect change in our society. There's also corruption, another wild card factor that we can barely police, it seems, within our society. So when it comes to um, how would law and order actually work today, I think most people would look at the idea of removing a leader, the face of the nation, as absurd. I think most people. I think if you went to the average person and you're like, "Hey, what if we just had a presidentless society? Like, what if we just completely removed the president?" I think most people wouldn't even begin to have the conversation with you. I think they would think that you were probably on drugs and you're crazy. But that's because again, I don't think they looked up the word anarchy, right? Number one. But what I'm trying to get at here is like we've been so conditioned to say like, no, we elect this person and this is the person that flies around the world and represents us, and that is like such a farce, right? Because it truly is a facade. It truly is a facade like process, right? Like it's some nebulous, just ambiguous idea that we have someone out there, right? Who knows what they're doing? Who knows, how they're acting behind closed doors? We know nothing about our president virtually, even though he's in front of the camera every day. But the idea of removing that president, I think, would just be, it would be almost blasphemous. I think people might even call it, like, people might even call it, terrorist, like, as far as like, that line of thinking. It's just like, what, are you kidding me? Like, how could you not have a head of state? But I would agree with you that not having a president would actually be, like, if you remove the head of the snake, if you will, like, what problem would we actually have? Wouldn't we actually get more equity, considering that the other parties, like Congress, the House of Representatives, they would actually have to vote on everything and actually have to fight back and forth, whether that promotes gridlock or not. It's like, wouldn't that actually favor the American people, instead of having more power concentrated into like one authoritarian figure?
Yes, I mean, I don't know how much it would benefit us because, again, we're on the bottom. It would probably just redistribute power among Congress, right? Which is,
Okay.
again, not that great. And then a few examples. You mentioned blasphemy before, in medieval times or whatever, or Europe. People thought the king couldn't be removed. He was appointed by God. It's blasphemous to criticize the king. He was there by divine intervention, and God appointed him and everything. So, I mean, you can see the parallel if people are thinking like, oh, you can't remove the president, that's blasphemous. And then another point is, I think if people really sit and think this through, they're going to see a lot of this doesn't make sense. Like, imagine there's 100 of us on an island. Would we elect one person to just boss us all around with no way of accountability? You cannot recall them. They're just sitting there for 4 years. Like, bring it back to like a very like straightforward example. It doesn't make sense. Like, why would we elect one person to like
No,
boss us all around on an island? Why wouldn't we make decisions together about stuff? Why would we have a Congress? Why would we elect anybody instead of just making our own decisions collectively?
I really like the idea that you put out there, right? So I'm Googling like island one leader, and I'm like finding a picture of like Roman Reigns and the bloodline.
I
So
rank, what's it called? The
Lord of the Flies?
with kids on the island. Lord of the
Lord of
Flies, yes.
Yeah, so it's Lord of the Flies or Animal Farm. Animal Farm is the same. Did you read Animal Farm by George Orwell? Same thing. It's the same thing. The pigs, the animals in Animal Farm, the pigs and the animals end up taking over, and the pigs lead it because pigs are actually highly intelligent creatures and they taste delicious. But the pigs end up leading the revolt against the farmers. They promise equity and equality and peace, and they get that for a little bit until the pigs start fighting amongst themselves. One leader emerges out of the group. Another enemy quietly emerges and starts training some other animals on the side. And then ultimately there's a takeover, and that pig runs the animal farm. And ultimately, not to spoil the book, are you going to read the book? Or
You can spoil it. But then just another side note, George Orwell was inspired by anarchists as well.
this is typical. And to me, this is exactly like, the story serves as a scathing satire of the Russian Revolution, because ultimately showing how absolute power corrupts, and there are no ideals, because creating a dictatorship, I believe, is what human beings would resort to. I want to come back to the question that you were saying, like at the root of your question, you're saying, okay, if you were stranded on an island and there were just a few different survivors, you just asked a very interesting question, because it was open-ended, and it is binary, but you're saying, would you just want one absolute leader? I don't know if there was like 20 people on the island.
How would you, it doesn't have to be binary, how would you organize yourselves, or how would you propose
but that's the thing, right? Because now you have to come back to, I think, human instinct and human inhibitions, because I think the inclination for a group of people is to work toward establishing that hierarchy. I think, like, almost passively we would work towards that, because we're just designed, maybe Maybe, right? Maybe it's in our subconscious at this point, but I think we're designed to have one person make decisions, because if you don't have decisions, you essentially, if you have too many people talking, too many chefs in the kitchen, whatever it is, then I do think you get a level of anarchy, which is the other definition of it, which is lawlessness, right? And no order. So then I think people do tend to come back to the other side of the spectrum and say, okay, we either have, like, I mean, technically we could have equity. We could have equity amongst the 20 people stranded on the island, but usually there's enough disagreement. And then how do you have, like, I mean, do you just have a majority rule? I think people like that idea, is what I'm saying. But I think I think overall, like, human instincts, like our inclination would be to select one ruler, so that there's two things there, because I think you eliminate the risk of the disorder, and then I think you also absolve people of the responsibility of making those decisions. And that's why I think people actually want to elect a leader. They actually don't want to be associated with making those decisions. I mean, KD, like, 99% of people don't give a shit about the government. Like, I find this super interesting, but like 99% of people don't give a shit. They barely even vote, right? What's our participation rate in the country? So I think again,
Yeah, that's because people feel like nothing they do makes a difference.
Correct. We need more engagement, right? So the voting participation.
I don't think we need more engagement in voting. I think we need more engagement in our local lives. Like, another example is in the workplace, which is what capitalism is. It's a hierarchy in your workplace. Like, few things. One is on the island example, like, yeah, you may want somebody making, like, one person to be delegated to make decisions, but that doesn't mean you want them to have, complete dominating power to make every decision and to be able to kill people and rape your wife without consequences and all this stuff, right? Like, unlimited power. And then, maybe there are some decisions like, oh, you're a construction expert, so we're going to delegate you the power. We're giving you the power. We're allowing you to make these decisions so we can be more efficient, because we know you're the SME about construction. But maybe if you start making mistakes, or you're an asshole, or like, no, you're not making those decisions anymore, we're gonna revoke that privilege you have. But and we're going to make the construction decisions collectively again.
Like, but how do you get order without coercion, though? Because the thing is, like, all right, let's. I think the best way to experiment with the idea of anarchy or a classless society is really to put those 20 people stranded on an island. So let's say you do have those 20 people stranded on an island, and we now say, okay, we're all going to vote together, right? We're going to the way we're truly going to be a democracy and just have majority rule. Is everyone going to be happy? It's rhetorical, right? Not everyone's going to be happy, right? Because some people are just they're going to have to do things that they don't want to, right?
Or you can do consensus also. It doesn't have to be majority.
Okay, let's say you do consensus, right? What's the difference between consensus and majority?
Majority is anywhere between, I guess, 50 and 99%, and consensus is 100% agreement.
Consensus is 100%? So you need a unanimous decision?
Yeah.
How would anything ever get done then? I mean, now we're kind of really poking holes in. I mean, we're ripping out the foundation here, because how are decisions going to be made? You have to make the assumption that you're not going to get a unanimous agreement on every decision that's made.
Yeah, for some stuff you might not.
Okay, so then so let's just say we're going to rule with the majority, with a democracy, right? So we have 20 people on the island, and I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize. But we have 20 people on the island, and I just want to get back to this idea of coercion, because the core concept of anarchy is that you eliminate the hierarchy, right? And you eliminate this idea of process by coercion, right? So essentially forcing against someone's will, meaning that you have to do this, right? So it's like, hey, you all have to work, and you all have to pay taxes so that this society can run. That's essentially how our government works today, right? We're going to enable things foundational for you, infrastructure, technology, stuff like that. And then you have to work to make money, to pay taxes. And that's how the system works, right? Puts us in the rat race.
I don't think the government does that. I think the people enable technology and stuff like that. The government just has power to boss us around.
Correct. But then the government I'm just saying how does the government work though? Like they demand taxes. We have to pay taxes, else we go to jail. So
Yeah. I'm just saying they're not the ones developing technology and
correct,
blah blah
right?
blah.
Yeah, that happens
They're
through a free
just
market.
exploiting us.
Correct. Yeah, sure. You could say it. You could say that way. You can absolutely say that our political hierarchy exploits us. Absolutely, especially considering that I don't think anybody understands or really has a handle on where our tax dollars actually go. You can look at charts till the cows come home as far as where allocations go, but where does the money actually go? To whose hands? Are there no bid contracts? There are. There's a lot of corruption there. So yes, I would say that they are taking advantage of us overall, right? Generally, I would speaking. But coming back to this idea of anarchy, because again, one of the core concepts is and I also have your essay up here as well, but one of the core concepts of anarchy is what exactly? It's to remove this idea of this coercive hierarchy. And I'm just thinking, okay, how would I go about doing that? Because if I think about, the context of a truly classist society, in the example of 20 people on an island where they all agree that they will all maintain a fair share of all of the equity, proceeds, benefits from anything that they create or anything that they do going forward, right? Is everyone going to be happy? That's a very important question. Like, I'm not just throwing that out there because that's very important, because that's usually where dissent starts to burgeon, right? That's usually where the problems.
People who want to hoard power or only enact their will won't be happy because they're having to share their power or make decisions collectively.
But then here's, can you think of any other problems that you might see?
Yeah, people might not always agree on everything. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, right. So my thing is let's say I'm a builder and I'm just very good with my hands. I was formerly a carpenter, right? We're just throwing this, hypothetical idea out there, and we agree with majority consensus, right? Majority rule. So everybody votes, and we agree that Shoy is going to be the primary builder, and I'm going to go and I'm going to have to work to build the huts. So let's say I just start doing it, but one day I just don't want to do it anymore. So, and now, the population starts growing and we still maintain a fair share, fair equity, but when I just don't want to do it anymore. And maybe like me and my group we just don't want to do it anymore. We don't want to build anymore. What do we do then?
Okay, you have to train somebody else to build, or somebody else has to learn how to build. Like, what are we supposed to do? Force people into slave labor, or what?
So I don't want to get into semantics here, but I think the word that you used, right? I think that's a preposition. I think, but it was essentially a command, which is you have to train someone. So you're already coercing me. You're already forcing me to do something. So first of all, if I don't want to build anymore, I should have the ability to just and the free will to just say, hey, I don't want any part of this. It's essentially like a game, right? And I'm being told to be a tool in this group, in this gang, if you will. I don't really want to call it a gang, but I can't just get out of that gang because that's how it works. So to me, it's like anarchy promotes this idea of, again, a cooperative, a stateless and classless society based on voluntary association. But if I don't want to, if I no longer want to take part of that society, now,
You're free to leave.
yeah, okay, so I'm free to leave, which is fine, right? Let's assume now that would be to the detriment of the group. Let's say I'm the only one that knows how to cook. All right, so now what? Right? Now what? What do you think would be better for that group of humanity, right? This is where I think we're really getting to the crux.
There's also two sides of it, right? You're building, but then who's feeding you? Who's the one cooking? There's another concept in anarchy, right? It's called mutual aid and reciprocity.
Well, let's say I
for your skills of building, we feed you.
Well, let's say I was the agrarian, and I was the only skilled agrarian there. Let's say. So without me, no one is going to eat. Let's say.
Yeah. Okay, but without the builder, nobody's gonna have shelter. So people are countering each other's power, right?
Sure, but without me, no one's gonna eat. So let's say I just don't want to cook anymore. Now, the populace, without me, will probably die. There will probably be famine, and they'll probably die. Let's just extrapolate as far as we can here. So let's say that's the case. What do you think the responsibility of the other 19 members should be? I no longer want to cook, and we are anarchists, and I'm okay, and you are okay with me voluntarily leaving, because this is a truly anarchist society, a classist society, a cooperative. What do you think the other 19 people should do?
Learn how to cook.
What if they can't?
Why can't they?
I'm just saying, what if they can't? Like, what if they try to cultivate the land? They let me go, right? I'm trying to be hypothetical, but like, you know, I can create the idea here, right? Where like you guys try to cultivate the land, you can't, and now you're suffering famine, and I'm out on my land, just living on my own because I don't want anything to do with this cooperative. What do you think the other 19 should do? And now the population is growing. What do you think the 19 should do?
I mean, I don't know. Depends. They either have to forage, they have to hunt, they can learn other stuff, or they might, not survive, or they might go and try to convince you also to come back. And then there's other stuff that you need from them also, right?
But those are great. I wish Jordan was here. I wish Jay was here, because this would be great, right?
We can trade with you. The other 19 can trade with you then.
Correct. And I could still not be a part of the cooperative. However, my question then is this, right? Let's say they're faced with two decisions. Starve to death. At this point, it's like, if I don't come back and help, they will not eat as a nation. So now they're forced into two decisions. They either starve to death, or they coerce me and they pull me back in somehow, maybe against my own will. What do you think is for the betterment of humanity? I'm asking a specific question now, right? Now, what do you think they should do? What would be the better decision for humanity at that point, considering these are the last 20 humans on Earth?
I think probably trying to trade with you.
Okay, let's say you can't do that. You've already tried. You've exhausted all other options. You tried to trade. You tried to cultivate the land yourself. You tried to convince me to come back. All of them didn't work. I'm sorry?
They're going to rob you then.
They're going to rob me? So you would agree with stealing from me?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
I don't think it's bad to steal bread when you're starving.
So you would steal the food from me. Now you're going into the other definition of anarchy, right? Because now anarchy means, no order, right? Lawlessness.
I don't think that's no order.
Well, that is chaos. You're stealing. Is stealing good? Morally, is stealing good?
If you're starving, yeah. If your child's starving, you're going to say it's immoral to steal bread to feed them?
Sure, but would you call that a state of disorder now that we're stealing from one another?
No.
Okay, I would. I absolutely would. All right, I got to leave it there. Thanks for watching, y'all. Thanks, KD. We'll get back on.
All right.
I got to do quarterly planning. All right, bye.